So I will be the moderator for the next panel discussion. My name is Ratish Balakrishnan. We are running out of time, and I can promise you by the end of the session, we will be on track on time. And I'm one of the co-founders of Sattva, and the focus of today's discussion is centered around three key themes. Yeah? The primary focus, of course, as you know, is on education. And what I would like to talk about as part of this discussion with our esteemed panel are three things. Number one, what is it that we have to do to improve quality of education? Number two, the value of partnerships in making and improving quality of education. And number three, what can corporates do as part of this conversation? So those are the key three themes. And education, as you all know, is a nuanced, complex issue, and it requires multiple stakeholders to work together. So I'm very, very happy to have a panel that's representative of the various stakeholders that are working in this space. I'm going to keep the introductions brief and call on my esteemed panel and request them to come on stage. So the first person on my panel is Vandana Goel. She is the CEO of Akansha Foundation and was recently recognized by the World Economic Forum as a young global leader for her work in children's education. Vandana? Yeah, excellent. My second panelist is Saurabh Bansal. Saurabh is focused on the education portfolio at the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, India, and primarily oversees large-scale systemic reform programs, remedial and edtech initiatives. His area of interest includes public-private partnerships and creating market-based solutions. Saurabh, thanks for joining us. My third panelist is Vivek Sharma. Vivek Sharma is a founding member of KEF, and Vivek was previously a program director with Pratham India. While working on Pratham's footprint in the northern states, he set up learning enhancement programs in government schools. And my final panelist for the discussion is Joy Ranadive. She is currently the global head of corporate social responsibility at Tata Consultancy Services, Mumbai. She is responsible for giving direction, formulating policies, and driving the CSR programs for TCS nationally and globally. Joy, we are very, very happy to have you here. So it's 3:30, and in the next 2 minutes, I'm going to get a lot of what we all know out of the way, right? Number one is oftentimes the conversation around social impact is dismal, and there is a view of how there is not much progress happening. But I think there are things to cheer about in education. We work in 18 states in India, as Sattva today. Wherever I go on the ground, the one thing I see today is every parent aspires for their child to get education. Our primary enrollment numbers have consistently been about 96%. And today, education is a need that everybody understands exists, number one. Two, while enrollment has been solved, the quality of education is still a huge challenge across the country. The IICA is a report that tells us every year that we have a long way to go. And there is today a conversation also about not just primary education, but seeing what can happen in the secondary education, too. Three, in terms of interest among corporates, in terms of philanthropic funding, in terms of passion among entrepreneurs, education is probably on top on all of these lists. So many innovative ideas, so many interesting models, and today, the challenge in education, in some sense, is not innovation, but to be able to address the problem at scale. So having said what all of us know, I want to then bring in the panelists to talk about the key insights around the three topics that we spoke about. And I request each of the panelists to take about 2-3 minutes to very quickly share some of the key themes that you would like to highlight as part of this discussion. Post that, I would like to pose a few questions to the panel of things that have been burning in my mind. And we will open it as soon as possible for questions from you as the audience as well. Yeah? Vandana, if I could request you to go first.
Sure. Thank you. So I've been asked to speak about schools as a holistic unit of learning. And I was thinking about what it means for a school to be a holistic unit. And I think what it means is for us to see children as holistic human beings, and for the schools to recognize them as such. And when we talk about achieving learning outcomes, I think today One of the other things all of us know about education is that just a degree or a diploma or a qualification is a necessary but insufficient pathway to independence, to self-sufficiency, to good citizenship. And so what else is it? And we must acknowledge that as children are holistic human beings, that their cognitive development is inextricably linked to their non-cognitive development and growth. And that if we do not nurture their social and emotional well-being, then their ability to learn, particularly those in low-income or disadvantaged or underserved communities, their ability to learn is severely limited if we only focus on quantitative measures of literacy and numeracy, and their ability to realize their full potential is therefore limited. And so what does that mean for the school? What does the school have to do? And I think the first thing the school needs to do is recognize the context in which our children are living. That first means that who are their parents? What do they go home to when they leave us in the afternoon? What are the values and the messages that they're getting from their families, from their surrounding areas? And how does the school acknowledge and recognize those things? How does it align the school's vision with the parents' vision for their children? Second, when the students leave us after 10th standard or 12th standard, what world are they going into? What kind of opportunities are available to them? What kind of challenges are waiting for them? And how has the school equipped them to be able to face those challenges and to thrive in that kind of world? And so what we need to do as a school unit is first recognize these many forces in a student's life beyond what we're doing in school. And then we need to integrate those things into our schools by focusing on what our teachers and our principals or HMs are doing in those schools every day. Do they understand what values, what mindsets, what skills, what knowledge our students need? And are they integrating those things into our pedagogical practice, into our selection of content, into the kinds of programs we offer, and into the professional development we offer our teachers and school leaders? If we do not focus on the development of a teacher's and principal's capability to identify these things and to design programs effectively to meet the needs of their students, then we will never see a country that has people who are really young people coming out of our schools where a degree is not the only thing that they have in their hands, but they are equipped with many more skills beyond that. And so when we talk about schools at a micro level, how are we looking at professional development and at learning in this context? That's it.
Thank you so much, Vandana. And I think a lot of points that you raised are very, very critical. The point you talked about context, the communities where the children come from. And I want to highlight how a lot of the children who are coming to school today are children of first-generation learners. They are first-generation learners in their family. So the ability to engage the community and parents becomes very critical, and that's something I want to talk to you about as we go along as well. If I move to the other end of the table now, Vivek, if you could take 3 minutes to share your thoughts.
So, I think Vandana's kind of set the tone for me. At a very personal level, I think there's a deep seated anger at the fact that the government school child has been reduced to being a poor child. The fact that this child, we failed to deliver the basic cognitive literacy to this child. I mean, leave aside the non-cognitive bits, leave aside a whole range of skills that are almost necessary for the citizenship of today. I think it's fundamentally that point that issue that we represent as an organization, Kaivalya. The challenge of this government school child being reduced to a poor child was what we thought we wanted to work on. And the aspiration is to bring the systemic transformation to the levels where we can say that children going to government schools are going to be delivered reasonably robust educations, which is relevant in the contemporary times. So, how did we go about doing this? We felt fundamentally that if India has 600,000 schools, let us say, I mean, that's one of the numbers that is probably thrown. I mean, and India is 600 districts. So that's really 1,000 schools per district. How do you transform 1,000 schools? Is there a systemic method of transforming the 1,000 schools? If that can arithmetically, theoretically be done, then it can be replicated 600 times over, not necessarily by us, but by civil society, by stakeholders across the country. So with that theoretical preamble, we said, let's try to transform a tranche of 100 schools. So the principle was very simple. We picked up the brightest young people from across India's colleges, and we launched what we called the Gandhi Fellowship. So a Gandhi Fellow works with 5 government school headmasters. So 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., each Gandhi Fellow works with the school. And 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., the fellow works in the community to create the conditionalities, to do the requisite change management at home, in the community, and in the society to ensure that this child has appropriate conditions for her to be supported towards going to the school. So, given first generation, given the fact that parents are not committed to what the child ought to be doing in the school, so each fellow works with 5 headmasters, and it's been amazing. I mean, it seems almost, I mean, it sounds rhetorical, but it's a fact that the areas in which we are working, private schools are shutting shop, the cheap private schools. Enrollments are rising. Jhunjhunu district in Rajasthan this year has had an enrollment drive, which was a collective effort of the district collector's office, the DEO, the Panchayat, and these Gandhi Fellows. The 4 set of stakeholders drummed up an energy in the district, and we've had 15,000 numbers enrolled as of last month, which is more than the averages of the past. And this phenomena is happening in various places. The fact that a school will make an assessment, the fact that the assessment will not be seen as a threat, the fact that this assessment will become a part of the remedial process, the fact that reading corners, libraries, sports, etc., cognitive and non-cognitive processes can be initiated in the classroom has been adequately demonstrated in the last 8 years. My 7th batch of fellows graduated last month. The point is now,
Vivek,
first question.
1 minute.
The first question that you will have is, I mean, fellows, is it a sustainable model? The point is that the fellow works with 5 headmasters and causes change in the school. Is it possible to cause change at the systemic level? A district is governed typically by about 150 people, the DOs, the DIETs, the SSA, the BRCs and the CRCs. How do you activate this system to come into alignment to facilitate for the headmaster and the teachers and the children to create a unit that delivers quality education? Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. And one of the most exciting things about the discussion and that you've started, Vivek, and I want to talk to you about that is that a replicable model across all districts of the country? So if you take the problem of education a district at a time, can we create a solution for a district and say solve it district by district, right? So one thing that both Akansha, Vandana and Vivek, who's from KF, have in common, in addition to their commitment to education and the work they're doing, is a partner at the ecosystem level who's been supporting them for a long time. And personally, I would vouch for Michael and Susan Liddell's Foundation's work in education and other areas has been somebody who's taken a very, very forward-looking approach towards this. And I'm very happy to have you, Saurabh. So if you could share your thoughts as well.
Thank you for the very kind words, Ratish. So as Ratish has emphasized, and I guess in the morning also it was conclusively established, education is one of the most well-funded sectors, one of the most innovative sectors given all the efforts which are going on by a number of not-for-profits and otherwise. But the stark reality, which of course remains, is that we all acknowledge the fact that the kids in government schools, and actually equally so the kids in low-cost private schools, are really not learning what they ought to be learning. And that's what I guess both Vanna and Vivek have re-emphasized. So before I even talk about what we do, I just want to take a quick second about the context of the problem itself, right? When Vivek is talking about 600,000 schools, and that's just the government primary schools, the total number of schools in India are about 1.5 million. The overwhelming proportion of these schools, be they government or be they private schools, are actually delivering extremely poor learning outcomes, right? A child goes to school eventually to have a good quality education, which sets him up for something in life, right? The eventual objective is that he should come out to be eligible to do some job, to be successful in business, whatever that is. But we all know that they are not learning, right? And the challenge is, it's not just, this problem cannot be solved by just working in 50 schools, 100 schools, 200 schools at a time, when you're talking about the order of magnitude of 1.5 million schools as a whole. So, so I represent Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. It's the family foundation of the Dells, the founder of Dell Computers. We've been working in India for about 10 years, focusing on education, vocational training, and microfinance. Specifically in education, how we have attempted to solve this problem is by segregating it into two parts. One part, what we call our innovation portfolio, wherein we fund a lot of very high quality organizations. Akanksha and Kevalya are shining examples of two of those organizations who are innovating on how the learning problem can be solved in these schools through a variety of approaches. Can we deploy our own teachers as an Akanksha model? Can we train the teachers? Can we train the headmasters? Can we monitor the systems? Can we bring in some innovative pedagogies, etc., through both not-for-profit models and also through equity investments in a lot of social enterprises which are trying to deliver high-quality learning outcomes in these schools. But at the same time, a phrase which has stuck with me when I moved to this sector after many years in management consulting is, education sector is a graveyard of pilots. Given the context, given just the vast scale of the education sector, 100 school, 200 school, even 1,000 school experiment, which will sustain for maybe 2 years, 5 years at a point of time, is really a pilot, right? I mean, it's not even 1% of the problem which we are trying to solve. So the other portfolio which we have recently started focusing on is what we call a systemic reform portfolio, wherein when I take education as a management unit, education is governed by either the municipal corporations or the state governments. So a state government is essentially running about tens of thousands of schools usually, right? So, and typically, when you go to them, they are looking for a lot of support. If you just go to the other side of the table as to how should they deliver quality. A case in point being, we launched a similar program in Haryana for the first time, and I asked them, how many students are there in Haryana? And the principal secretary said, we have about 25-30 lakhs, take a few lakhs here or there. How many teachers do you have in the system? About 1 lakh, give or take about few thousands over there. And that's really the illustration of the starting point of the problem, right? Building on from there, knowing where do you need to deploy teachers, knowing which of those teachers are actually trained and capable of delivering this, which of those are actually going in the classrooms and actually delivering education, and scientifically measuring these outcomes is really the journey which these systemic transformation initiatives attempt to solve. I'm very happy to say that at least in Haryana, which was the first such initiative, there are 3 data points on validation. We actually focus very much on measurement. Our mission is measurable improvement in the learning outcomes of children. There were 3 different data sets. ASAR actually itself said that in Haryana, for the first time ever, learning outcomes are improving at a state level. In NAS, which is the National Government Survey, again said the same thing. Education Initiatives, which is the preeminent assessment agency in education in the country, again with the largest ever survey in the country, came up with the same data. So it's of course just a start, right? I mean, there's a very, very long journey to cover. But I personally am very, very enthused by this opportunity of making a mindset change in the government, where these governments are the ones who are actually owning these statewide transformation initiatives, implementing these with their own people and trying to sustain it with a lot of effort from all the external partners out there. And we'll talk more about it later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you so much. Joy, you are the flag bearer for corporations in our panel, and also somebody who's had very rich experience in the sector. And as someone who's leading the efforts in TCS from a CSR perspective, would love to hear your thoughts on education and what you're doing, especially in the education space as TCS.
I'm not the flag bearer for all corporates, so let me first correct that. I'll speak about what TCS is doing, and of course I'll also talk about generally, what corporates are facing now, given the fact that we have the 2% mandate also on board. So typically, I would begin by saying that, at TCS, education is not only about school education. It's a wider kind of an approach. And we link it very closely with a kind of a pathway approach. So, after education, then is it as important to look at skilling the youth? So it's a life path kind of an approach, rather than just taking a group of students and saying that what is it we can do with them. Now, why do we do this? The choice for corporates is whether you go an inch deep and a mile wide, or do you go a mile deep and an inch wide. Correct. So it all depends on who you are, what is the nature of your business. So if you're a manufacturing organization, or if you're in extractive industry, then obviously it makes sense for you to work around the area where you are and to look at education from that point of view. Although I would say that currently the expectation seems to be that the national level problems be taken at the helm, and then you approach it from the point of view of the way the government would, or a development organization, or a donor funder would. But then, are we converting corporates into donor funders? That is the operative question. But at TCS, we have not believed in checkbook charity. Neither are we believing in checklist charity. And when I say checklist charity, it is that, okay, you have this bunch of things that the government needs you to do, and as long as you're doing all of them, then you're okay. It has to make sense. So when I say it has to make sense, what is this sense that I'm talking about? So it has to be, for example, since we are part of the Tata Group, it has to be aligned to the larger ethos of the Tata Group. And at the group level also, we are working on education. We are debating on what should be done, whether group companies come together and do the same thing, or do we do it differently, or, between us, how do all the pieces of the puzzle come together? Right. So that's one level. Then there's another filter of where we are. So it makes better sense to look at areas where we are. Then we also have a global presence, not just an India presence. So you may have the 2% mandate in India, but then what we do in India has to make sense also with what we do globally. So that is another level of the making sense.
Absolutely.
And I would say the center of the pillar of the whole tent, as you may call it, is core competencies. So we believe in doing something which we are good at and working with partners for the community connect, or for understanding where we should be going into. Or if we decide we want to go into there, then look for a credible partner that understands the lay of the land over there, that understands the community needs over there. It does not make sense for a corporate to, go out there. So you do the IT and the IT enabled pieces the best. I'll give you examples of that. We have a large BPS skilling program, 100 hours, where we look for young people from very remote areas who otherwise do not have the opportunity to even participate in an interview. Sure. So it's all done free of cost. We take them through the training, and then they're free to compete for jobs either with us or outside in the sector. So we make them ready for employment. Now, we've covered over 50,000 of them in 17 states.
Sure.
That's one kind of thing. We're the only corporate doing adult literacy. Now you would say, is adult literacy education? I would say yes. Because it does not make sense for a cohort of the population to remain illiterate when we're talking of the nation moving forward.
Absolutely.
So we've used our core competencies in building a system that actually makes what otherwise manually takes 200 hours to make a person read, write, and do arithmetic. At a functional level, we've truncated it down to 50 hours. So in 50 hours, the person is able to read, write, and do arithmetic.
Absolutely.
We have that in 9 Indian languages, 2 African languages, and Arabic. And covered about 260,000 people so far. We made inroads into jails, affected, positively impacted lives over there. Now, is that education? That is the question that, comes back to me.
Yeah.
The other question that comes back to me oftentimes is, why would TCS do, yeah. Okay, one more minute. Why would TCS do adult literacy, and what sense does it make to you? There we look at it from the point of view of the radius of responsibility. So am I going to see only something which is immediately relevant to me, to my business, or am I going to see something which has a larger impact in terms of the nation building? And that's where I say the alignment with the Tata ethos also comes in. So I just gave you a flavor of 2 programs, but globally, I'll just take that last 1 minute to say, globally the focus is on what is called STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. And we work with kids from schools, government schools. We work with college students in supplementing the curriculum that they already have to be able to get better marks in these subjects and to also take up IT as a profession. And that is being done globally. Correct. It's not just done in India. Correct. Although the challenges are slightly different in both the places. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Joy. I just want to reiterate a couple of things you said, which I think are very important. The one point you mentioned about how corporates look at both their area of interest and the area of expertise. For TCS being a technology company, STEM education, technology is an area of expertise. And you bring that to the table, and 2 are able to bring in partners who bring the community understanding. And I know Tata has a huge history and legacy of affirmative action. And for when you're working with the tribal population, the far remote population, the community organization is able to bring that expertise, and you're able to bring your technology expertise to create value. That's number 1. The second thing you brought up, which I think is important for corporates, is to also see what is my area of expertise. The area of interest, as you said, for a manufacturing plant could be the local community, and for TCS could be something that is larger, like adult literacy and so on, which is slightly different from the area of expertise that you spoke about as well. One of the things that, if time permits, I would love to speak to you about also is the global context. As an organization working globally, how are the issues of education in India different from what you're seeing in other locations as well? But before I go forward, I just want to have a few questions. We might be short on time, and I'd love to have a few questions before we end. Akansha, one question that I had for you, which is something you touched upon as well. I think I fundamentally believe that unless parents take accountability and hold the schools accountable, the quality of education is not going to improve. How are you doing that today in terms of your engagement with the community, and how do you see that add value?
So, if you think about who was our biggest influence in our lives, we would all say our parents and our families and our home. And so the same holds true for children in underserved communities. And so when we first started our schools, we ran after-school centers where we worked with parents for many years as well. But when we started our schools, we said, what is the best way to engage with our parents and with our communities? And we did a lot of research about, how do you understand the limitations of parents in these communities and the challenges, even if they want to be engaged, their challenges in doing so. And so we have multiple ways for parents to actually participate in our schools. 88% of our parents are actually engaged in a meaningful way across our 6,500 students and 21 schools. And so it's a myth that parents of poor children or low-income students don't care or don't want to be involved. It's one of the biggest myths, I think, that is pervasive, across the world, not just in India today. So we have parent literacy classes where we have bilingual materials for the parents, and we teach them what we teach the children so that they can go home and reinforce the learning. This is particularly relevant in the pre-primary years. And reinforce learning for these children at home. Each school has a very active school management committee where the representation changes every 2 years, as is mandated by the government. They were the first schools in the BMC and in the PMC that actually had active SMCs. And so many other municipal schools have come and learned from our structures that we have in place. We have parent volunteers, so parents who come in. They may be carpenters, plumbers, they may want to go on field trips with their kids. Many of our parents help us in our schools in various ways. And we also have parent education for more general issues that they may be facing, financial help, nutrition and hygiene, abuse, all of the issues that we see in our communities. And so we work many times beyond just the parent community and in the broader community with our partners as well. So that is how we do it.
And thank you for sharing that. And I think what you're highlighting also is that holistic focus of engaging the community. It's not to look at the parent as a parent, but part of a larger community, which I think is very important. Vivek, I had a question for you, which is more around the engine of replication that you spoke about. Today, if you look at the statistics that you shared, about 600 districts, 1,000 districts at a time, what are some of your thoughts on creating that replicable engine? Are the fellows with the DNA of change one way to do it, or are there other things that have to be done?
So let's look at it at two levels. And I think the audience sitting here knows it better than anyone else. Fundamentally, replication is a set of processes, is a kind of technology, it's a mindset which is quite absent in the government system. Now, if you look at the 150 people who are managing district education, you will find that the district education officer, who's the employer of all the human resource in the school, and the SSA, which is the agenda giving arm, and the DIET, which is supposed to be training these teachers, I mean, all three are at complete disarray. So fundamentally, if a DIET organizes a training, the DEO doesn't give out the letters and the teachers don't get to know, or the kind of RPs that are brought into the system, I mean, teachers don't want to come for those trainings. But potentially, this audience can visualize bringing these 150 people into some form of an architecture which is functional. I don't think it is an impossibility. So fundamentally, we are saying that if these 150 people, if the RPs are cherry-picked by the system to make sure that they have an MIS of teachers which has the competencies mapped, and therefore teachers will be trained on basis of what they already know and what is their gaps that they experience while working in the class. Now, this arrangement, if you visualize it in a particular way, there is a possibility of replication, and that's one phenomena that is missing. Part B, the fundamental issue is, civil society, my tribe, NGOs, come for a lot of critiques. Fundamentally, where are the organizations at the last mile which have the replication perspectives, which means have the process, have the MIS, have the technology, have the systems for an idea as simple as early readings, as simple as SMCs, or training of teachers and so on and so forth. So a whole range of agendas, we don't have those organizations. So which means that the fellows, the Gandhi fellows that we have today, we are imagining that these fellows will go back and embed themselves in their own areas, in the geographies which are of their affiliation or interest, and over a period of time, we will build organizations, or we will catalyze other organizations where these fellows will go and work with the replication perspective, which means that you don't just need to learn to read, but you need to create the architecture for replicating the learning to read process across 1,000 schools. So we are working on both lenses through the headmasters and the district transformation program, and through the fellows who we are working towards sending them back to their districts of origin. Therefore, a lot of our fellows are not necessarily urban educated young people, but they come from either rural schooling or semi-rural schooling, so they have a very strong affiliation back home in the districts.
Thank you, and I just want to build on that, Vivek, and I think the context of our audience today, one of the things that is most critical to look at in education is that the innovation, and I completely agree with Saurabh, it's an ongoing process, but there are a lot of existing innovations that can actually be replicated at a district block, sometimes at a state level. So when corporates break the problem into saying, there is a district that I take as a sandbox, what are the various innovations that I can try and deploy in the areas that I work in? How can I make those innovations transferable? That, as you rightly said, requires organizations that have the DNA to replicate and the ability to replicate, ideas that are existing, and the people at the local level who are able to kind of drive that, right? I only, unfortunately, have time for one more question. Joy,
If I may add a line.
No.
Just a
No.
line.
No, I really have 1 minute, so I'm going to be like the badass moderator here. No, because I want to end with a question which I think is most critical for the audience here. And actually, it's not just for Joy, for any of the panelists. How do you envision the role of corporates in furthering this education agenda forward? Because there are things that all of us have to do together. From your experience and from the work that you're seeing on the ground and your past experience with corporates, if you say this is the one thing, and actually we'll keep it to one. This is the one thing that I think corporates should focus on, what would that be?
Since I'm the only corporate person here, he's looking at me and so is everybody else. I don't have the answer to that as, a Formula 44. God bless Wix. But I would say that each one of us have to do what we do best. And I would say this with humility because I have also worked in the development sector for over 2 decades. And so I understand the angst of both, that side and also the challenges that corporates face when they are having to actually, spend money with an intention of also reporting and also being credible. So I would say that it has to be based on, for corporates, it has to be based on a certain very strong value system of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and a close linkage of it to business and sustainability. And here there are 2 levels of sustainability we're talking about. One is the commercial sustainability of the corporate. The other is the sustainability of the program itself. So if both of them can go in tandem and both do not knock heads against each other, then, and it encompasses what you do the best, then I think you can find partners aligned to you and work along with them to make a difference, whether it is in a mile radius or whether it's an inch radius. I think both are needed. So you need to go deep down, deep dive. You also need to. And replication, the scalability thing, I mean, it's always, we are accused about being numbers and number-driven and all that. It's also about standardization. So the whole ups and downs you have about the quality and then the teachers and this. So if technology can play a part in that, in assisting, or I'm not saying replacing teachers, but actually assisting in that kind of, imparting of quality, then corporates should definitely, participate in that kind of a program.
Okay.
Yeah.
One line? And
Yeah, one line. Somewhat of a counterpoint, maybe. So I agree on multiple dimensions with Joy that corporates should do what probably fits them the best, what they are most capable about. And similarly, development sector, to my mind, is also a fairly complex problem, right? Sometimes maybe even more complex than the problems we are solving in the commercial sector. And I say it again with all humility because I am really not the one solving problems. It's actually the organizations who are on the ground who are solving these problems. So I think, education is a sector where for the last maybe 60, 70, maybe much before independence, since that time, a lot of people have been putting in a lot of effort. But still where we are, we are where we are. To my mind, I think it's also because everybody is also working in their own small pockets of isolated efforts of, this is my immediate need of showing impact to maybe my target segment, my set of stakeholders, and so on. So to my mind, one thing which is also required is for people to actually aggregate their efforts to maybe go beyond their own individual mandates and take a slightly longer term view of, even if you are not getting credit with your immediate stakeholder population, even if you are not being as visible out there, but maybe you are supporting the initiatives which are actually the most well proven, supported by data, supported by technology, sustainable initiatives out there, which will create impact even after the CSR money finishes for those 1 or 2 or 3 years for which that program is being funded. So to my mind, it's actually the aggregation, measurement for sustainable efforts where I would really urge our efforts to come together.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, because that fits in with the last point I wanted to make, which is collaboration, because there's so many good things already going on. If we can find opportunities to come together in alignment with our priorities and strengths, that I think there's a huge focus. There is so much more wealth of experience that I can draw out of, and I know I'm being unfair and not letting an open conversation with the audience, and I sincerely apologize for that. We just want to make sure that we are able to give time for all the wonderful speakers we have. And so on behalf of all of you, I'd like to thank all the speakers one more time. Thank you so much for your insights and experience. And thank you all once again for your time.
Very good afternoon. Myself, Shashi Bhushan. I am the Director and CEO of Rao IT Academy. Rao IT Academy was established by our research scientist, Dr. B.V. Rao, sir. He's our chairman. He was a principal scientist with SPRC. He has carved the careers of more than 10,000 students across country and enabling them to take birth in various IITs. Published more than 20 research papers in journals of international repute and has 14 patents on his credit. Being from a very humble family background, he himself faced a lot of adversities for his education. So ultimately he realized that he needed to do something for the society, and he started a small initiative for the economically deprived class of the society to enable them to reach what they really believe. After Kota, basically we are from Kota. After Kota, we established in Mumbai in 2008. Year by year, we have expanded in Gujarat, Jharkhand and other parts of Maharashtra and began our growth story for the academy. More than 32 branches across Mumbai we have, plus 5 branches in Pune. Presently, we are catering for 12,000 students in our classroom program and around 27,000 students in our online program. As our success rate, we are sending students into various premier institutes, medical as well as engineering. Rao IT Academy took an initiative of free coaching for underprivileged students. The academy provides free cost of education to 20 underprivileged students so that they can prepare for a variety of competitive examinations without worrying about the cost involved. We also distribute books to the needy students. Here, one thing which I would like to highlight, in 2016, a small success story of Rao IT, wherein this student, Nitin Divakar, he was a Rao IT student, and his father is an auto rickshaw driver. His father met me personally. He was unable to pay the fees. We took the aptitude test of the child, and now the child has acquired All India rank 4082. And now he can go into IITs, where what means in his related field, whichever he chooses. This is the small initiative. The annual income, the monthly income of this family is not more than 15,000. And the person, the father of Nitin, he neither owned the auto. He's just a driver on that auto. So this is a small initiative which we took, and this child is now, definitely he will land up in a premier institute, what we could do with this. Also, adding to this, we also provide free schooling to many of the students in 11th standard, 12th standard. We pay their fees. These are the few students which are studying with us. They can't afford to pay their fees, school fees. We are paying them on by own. This is the initiative taken by Rao IIT Academy, our chairman. Not only 11th and 12th, but also school level fees for 7th standard, 8th standard, 9th standard students, we are paying them. And we are seeing to it that they are coming up. If they are not having that capacity to pay the fees, we as an academy, we are doing our best to resolve the problems. Also, we are sponsoring nursery level education also. Few of them, they don't have their fathers. Their fathers are there, but they are not contributing to the families. Their school fees and everything is being taken care by Rao IIT. And our goal for social responsibility, we don't want to only teach this 20 students or 200 students. We want to go till 1,000 students. Just 1 minute. We firmly believe that a competitive success in IIT and medical entrance or other related examination will be a far successful effort in the upliftment of the child and his family. We hereby request corporate members to support us achieve the same. We all can come together and help those needy people. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I hope I was in time.
Thank you so much for giving us that little introduction into what Rao's education is doing. We had to switch a little bit of the schedule so that we could accommodate all the sessions in this hall itself. As you could have seen, the skill development session was overflowing in the afternoon, so thank you so much for helping us with this little bit of a change. We will have the CSR case studies session happening right now. I would like to invite Nikhil Pant from IICA, Shrikar Dole from the IIAD ILNFS team. And I would like to invite Shri Nayak from the Larsen & Toubro CSR and Mabel Abraham from Larsen & Toubro CSR, as well as Kshitija Krishnaswamy from Accenture, India, to take the stage.
Before that, we'll go to the identification of the theme, what we have done in Larsen & Toubro. In Larsen & Toubro, CSR, the social interventions we are doing for decades together in and around our campus at project sites in specific areas of health, education, skill building. But we thought that this CSR Act has given us an opportunity to look back and make maybe a little bit of correction or whatever things are required, contemporary things are required. So we did this way, again, the theme identification. So what we have looked at the ongoing CSR programs, then we have conducted our various regional CSR workshops. We have conducted the workshops for our senior management too. Then our partners, the various NGOs with whom we are working, we have got back to them, and then we have taken their views also. And we did an online survey. So all put together, we have actually covered almost all 3,500 people. And then we have taken the 4 key thematic areas out of those workshops, and then various CSR program ideas. And then we have come out to this, the tagline, Building India's Social Infrastructure. We are being an infrastructure company predominantly. So we thought that we'll put this as our tagline. So our CSR tagline is Building India's Social Infrastructure, which are having 4 verticals now. Where, as I told you earlier, education, health, and skill development was already there. We have put this water and sanitation also as the 4th pillar, and actually it has become a 1st pillar now. So all this thing put together, we're having the governance and the technology innovation all put together. We are now going ahead with this. These are the various programs we are having under health. We are having mother and child healthcare program. We are having about a dozen health vans going in and around our various project sites and campuses into the community. We're having community health center, about 5-6 of them in various cities. One is in city of Mumbai also. In education, we are having the Science on Wheels, that with one of the NGO partner, we are having 13 this Science on Wheel van, which goes into the community and gives the experiential learning to the children in those schools. We have the regular school infrastructure, development of the infrastructure, and the learning enhancement we do. In skill development, we are in a big way. We are having our own skill development institutes in 9 places where we do basically the construction skill for the poor and needy people, and for the machinery, for the farm work, for this kind of, and then after this is a 3 months training on the house, everything, their training, the residential program, even they are given a stipend, and after that they're free to join either our subcontractor or maybe any of the construction contractors. So this program, every year we are churning more than 10,000 people, out of this program, and we are doing it since almost 2 decades. Now in water and conservation, we are doing now in the morning, Mr. Anshu Gupta was talking about that we should do it for exactly where the need is. So earlier we were doing our interventions in and around our campuses, but after this program, we have started our integrated community development program, which we are doing now in 5 of the locations, which are far-flung places in Rajasthan and in Maharashtra and in Tamil Nadu. And there we are doing this integrated community development program, basically the watershed development program we are doing for a period of 4 to 4.5 years. So these are the areas. We have done a full-scale study before embarking into this activity. So all the districts throughout the country were mapped for the water stress. What are the water stress index in those places? And then we have also put in over there the human development indexes. And then we have come down to some of the places that where we have started these 5 locations which I have talked about, and basically we are doing these activities. They were providing first our motto is to provide safe drinking water, water for sanitation, and then water for the rural management. Then also training the local community. Then we are plugging in our hygiene and sanitation, education, health and skill building, and overall development, a holistic development. We are trying to create a center of excellence kind of thing in those remote places and possibly replicate in years to come. So these are the project goals, 3 to 5 years, to eliminate water stress, to enhance education level, healthcare. So all this in these places. Total 32 villages we are working, and the total number of people who will be impacted will be about 11,000 families. And these are in the state of Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. These are the places. The NGO partners with whom we are working these are the names. In Maharashtra, we are working with WOTR, and Seva Mandir and Arpan Seva Samsthan in Rajasthan. So these are the various our ICD families. These are the objectives. Various key concerns which were there. This is one of the particular picture you can see that in Rajasthan someone also told still the women folks, they travel 2 to 3 kilometers to fetch a bucket of water, and they go to the deep down in such an unsafe condition even with the children to fetch a bucket of water. What we did actually, this particular case, we have made this well usable again, put a pump, put a pipeline, and the best part of it that the community, they are the participative. They have put a rule that when they will be taking out the water and when they will be doing the chlorination, and even they have given a little small amount to run this program. These are in Tamil Nadu, some of the fallow land which has been converted from fallow land into the cultivable land by this kind of activities. This is one of the foot and mouth disease in the animals. This is one of the livelihood in the Rajasthan villages. So we have found that this is the real root cause, that livelihood are coming through the animals, and that animals, they're dying because of the foot and mouth disease. So we have conducted those camps, and we have found that there's very good results are coming out of that. So these are we have done, this is we are in the 2nd year of our program of this integrated community development project. So next we are now bringing this launching of sanitation. Last year we didn't construct any toilets over there because we knew there is no water. Having a toilet is not going to serve the purpose. So this year we have now created some water source. This year we'll be having some toilets, and then so this is in nutshell, this is the program of our integrated community development project which we are running, and we are hopeful that at the end of 4.5 years, 5 years, when we'll be exiting these places, these exit plans are also there, then these places will become a center of excellence, and the holistic development will take place in all these places. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kshitija. I'm Director for Corporate Citizenship at Accenture. As you know, Accenture is a management consulting, technology, and outsourcing company. And we have a huge presence in India as well, about 150,000 employees. So some of you who were in our previous skill session need to bear with me because some of it is repetitive. Nothing has changed in my CSR mandate between an hour ago and now. But just to share a couple of things, and I'm not going to drain every slide. I think what's important is, as Nikhil said, this is very much aligned to what the Companies Act has mandated as well. So our focus area, though we started about 9 years ago and focused it on one, skills to succeed, has two aspects to it that I'd like to talk about. One is skilling, which is really in India manifested itself as vocational skilling even then for us. And I keep saying, coming from a knowledge-based learning model to looking at vocational skilling in the context of people getting a job or starting a business was really what was our focus. It wasn't so much about tracking how many people we skilled. It was about seeing that at the end of our skilling, they had a job or they started their own business. We work with nonprofits who share this vision. So when we look at starting a program with any of our partners, we look at that this shared vision of outcomes is very much embedded in their processes. If not, we work with them in terms of actually building that up. What does it mean to have a focus on skilling? So, like I said, demand-led skilling, it's a continuum for us. Demand-led skilling, looking at entrepreneurship and employability as outcomes. And then really, what does a skilling ecosystem look like? What are some of the collaborations that we can bring in, even with the government? I mean, what are some of the best practices that we can leverage off each other? So our program, we're not a foundation, we're a corporate. We have 150,000 employees. So we've put it into 3 buckets: giving of money, time, and skills. All of it has one underlying theme: skills to succeed. Of course, there are variations in the way the programs play themselves out. So giving of money, our grants are completely skill building. We don't focus on education, healthcare, any of the other really good causes that our country probably needs as well. We only focus on skilling. Giving of money also has employees giving their money, but there we have a little flexibility. It is their employees, it is their money. So they need other causes as well, but skill building will form the largest part of our portfolio on that. Giving of time, volunteering. Go out and do volunteering if it's on the weekend, if you can take time off from work. But what can you do beyond just going to a vocational skilling center? Can you sort of adopt that NGO? Each of our employees is encouraged to do that. We know how to make presentations day in and day out, right, as corporate people, but our nonprofit partners don't necessarily know that. So can we, as volunteers, go there and help them raise funds? So can we build up presentations? So there's always an element of us deepening our engagements even through our giving of time. Giving of skills, focused programs, capacity building of the nonprofits. All the money that the 2% is going to bring in is going to, amount to nothing unless you can build the capacities of your nonprofit partners. So we have a program, for example, with one of our partners, and we've had it for the last 7 years, where we've helped them build an integrated system which tracks assessment, student involvement, all the way up to their placement at each of their 160 centers. What we then do is, these are assets that we sort of replicate. We look at them as assets. We look at them as reusable assets. So if one partner has one asset built for them, we look at what other, that asset can be recreated with another partner. And that's really the learning that gets transferred when you have a single focus. Is there a partner that may possibly want content? And it could be another foundation that wants it. We're more than happy to collaborate and say, as long as it's for nonprofits, we're happy to share that. There's no point reinventing the wheel if somebody's already done it. So that's really the giving of skills. The environment tends to be a very internal focused program, but again, we have intersects with skilling. We have a whole program around green skilling. And that's the part that somebody touched upon in one of the morning sessions. How are we preparing our students or the beneficiaries of our program to be part of the new industries? So green skilling, really our electricians are now being trained how to actually work with solar-powered generators. We have a client who comes in, provides the content, has helped us set up a center of excellence, and our electrical program, which, erstwhile the program only focused on regular electrical training, now has this component. So hopefully they're being upskilled. I mean, we keep saying recognition of prior learning. This is part of the upskilling that we want to do as it comes to newer industries. Digital skills, social media skills. Just because they come from a certain section of society and may have not seen a computer earlier, does not mean that they won't know how to do that today. So today you will find at one of our centers in Calcutta, our students will tell you, have you heard of Getty Images? I'm able to pull those, map it, and I'm getting business from Crowdflower. I mean, they're naming crowdsourcing sites to us. So that's if you deepen your focus, if you look at how are we continuously evolving the program, I think you'll be surprised at what kind of an engagement you can have with the students that you're training. Again, not draining this, 2 examples of entrepreneurship and employability. I think I've touched upon this. We have a business school for rural women. Our Seva program is about rehabilitating garbage pickers. Some of the notepads that, say, my company uses is really all made from, the Seva women who have been rehabilitated, who are able to make these. And we're looking for other corporates to buy exactly the same thing, because you're doing 2 things. It's a supplier diversity initiative. You were talking about medium and small scale entrepreneurs. There was a gentleman who told me about this. Get people onto platforms, get them onto forums, and then look at how they can build a linkage to market. That's really the holistic way to sort of look at a skilling ecosystem. Because you can skill them, but if they have no access to capital or they have no access to market and the resources needed to be able to do it, then your program's not really doing its job. It is not taking it to its logical conclusion. Similarly, Dr. Reddy is one of our partners, the partner that I talked about, where we've supported them for 7 years for skilling, not just from a funding perspective. We've built their entire tracking software. We've helped them with content that's helped them build e-learning program. I think all of it is saying we're in for the long haul. This is a long-term partnership. These are strategic partners, and they're all part of the ecosystem, the beneficiary, the nonprofit, and us as enablers. So our enablement could be in the form of funding. It could be in the form of in-kind support. And what that in-kind support is what every corporate probably needs to define for themselves. So just to recap, really, single CSR initiative, Skills to Succeed. We've not felt the need. There's so much that we can do in this one area. There's been no reason to actually go beyond it. Skilling takes the form of newer skills, digital skills. Green skilling is all latest entrance into our portfolio. And really that whatever cash you give out has to be enhanced with whatever skills you as an organization have, what expertise you bring to that ecosystem. That's really what, I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Yeah. So I think there's a few set of mic. Can you have a round of applause, please, for Kshitija? Karan, you're volunteer with the mic, and Shikhar will take a few questions, and then the people can respond.
Yeah, thank you, Nikhil. Both Mr. Malik and Kshitija have presented their own experiences. And the whole point of developing these case studies is that they are able to share their best practices with you guys. So I'm sure some of you who are in the corporate sector or even in NGO sector who have come across these activities that have been done, and you may have a question to ask. So please raise your hands and let us know if you have a question first. Yeah. Please state your name.
My name is Rajiv Barua. I represent an organization called the Better Cotton Initiative. I've been listening to everybody right through the morning about education and skill building. I think we also need to look at the skill building of our farmers, because there are a lot of issues today that agriculture is facing. There was a gentleman in the previous session where you were there, he mentioned about how poor the yields are of various crops in India. It's not only yields, farmers are overspraying their crops, which is a huge dent on their pockets. There's imbalanced fertilization. All this is creating health problems, environmental issues, and is also affecting us as consumers. So, I would request this August gathering and the corporates here to explore how we can support farming communities to build their skills, and how we can train, the outreach program. I mean, there was a discussion in the earlier session about educational outreach, schools. There's a huge need for outreach to the farming community. Otherwise, we will have migration. We are going to have a whole lot of issues unless, and this is also something to do building skills of people. And it's a livelihood question. I mean, if you can reduce the expense of a farmer by X amount and push his yield marginally, you're helping him in his livelihood. So I just want to change the narration here a little bit. I don't know whether we would like to address it in this session or the next two sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barua. Although your notions are very welcome, but the problem here is that we have two case studies and we would like to discuss and find out if you have any challenges or issue in those directions. So while we take into consideration what you just said, and maybe Nikhil, next time we will. Oh, okay, please.
I can touch upon, briefly what you talked about the education of the farmers, that what is the best way of farming, We have experienced it in a place called Chettipalam and Papampatti, which is in Tamil Nadu. There, about 15-20 years back, they're doing good farming. But today, they've become totally barren land because they have over-extracted the water. They never knew that how much water should be required. And they're overexploited, and then their water level had gone down, beyond 1,200 feet or so. That is point number one. Point number two, even what kind of actually methodology they should use. That particular place, they're using a methodology called chisel plowing or disc plowing, where actually the whole soil that is excavated in a particular way, and that gives better yield. So these are the things. Then what kind of, in Rajasthan, the farmers, they're our NGO partners who are specialists in this. They're giving a particular kind of seed by which they can get a 25% better production. So all these things kind of, these are the part of education, farming education. So I thought that we are already addressing this, but a lot needs to do. Over a period of time, we need to do it in a much more better way. But I agree with your point that until unless we educate them, then it cannot be done in a holistic fashion. Yeah.
We spoke about this earlier when I mentioned that I think what we bring to the table, or corporates like us, is our skill sets. And one of the things that we do have is this entire sort of holistic, accessible device that has all kinds of information built in, the availability of, crop prices, market prices for farmers in particular, and I'm happy to pilot that with you all. I think what also happens is it's an evolution. I mean, you heard the NSDC gentleman earlier, Mahesh as well, say that NSDC themselves is looking at what does skilling in the rural context look like. So I think it's just a question of a journey. It's not that any of us do not want to get into it. I think we start with low-hanging fruit and what we sort of know best, right? And then along the way, I mean, now 8 years later, I can tell you that, hey, we've developed this and we'd love to pilot it. We're at the stage where we're piloting, so more than happy. And if there are other people here who are part of that ecosystem, more than happy to do it. What we also do is, when I said we replicate assets, is exactly that. If we've built a market linkage model and looked at how can farmers, fishermen, I mean, I have a project up at Bundelkhand where the fishing community has access to a market. You know, it's a cold chain. We work the whole process out. What does that do? It's not about directly skilling the farmers, but it's about saying if there is climate change and if there is an issue where you're not actually going to be able to rely on your crop, then what is it that you can do as alternate sources of income? What do the women in your family do? And that's what we do with our Rural Business School for Women in Satara. So these are all templates, and we're more than happy to partner with people who work with rural livelihoods and see where any of them can apply. So I think it's just a question of thank you for raising this, but more than happy to sort of collaborate and see where that goes.
Thank you, Kshitija. The time is short, as you all know, so we will try and wrap it up. What I just would like to underline here once again is the idea of showcasing these case studies here today is that there are plenty of people in this gathering who have their own experiences. And it's best if you could put it in the format which then can be used by others to improve their own performances in terms of CSR project delivery. Then it would be, the world would be so much better. Because today we all do good things in our own backyard and we don't really share it with the world. And so the whole point being is that you also start looking at your own projects and start looking at it as a learning device for future generation or your colleagues or your partners, and that would make the system so much more richer. So thank you again, Mr. Malik. Thank you, Kshitija. Thank you, Nikhil.
No, thanks a lot. And in fact, we would be happy to hear from the audience if there are more cases which can be documented, which can be then taught in our courses. So do write back to us on that. And yeah, Karan, thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings this discussion to a close. Can we please have a huge round of applause for our eminent panelists? We'd like to give them a token of our appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now move into our CSR exchange, Saman, and CSR index discussions.